In this episode, we are going to learn about instancing in Panda3D. So what is instancing? So instancing is when you have a geometry and you want to create multiple copies of the same geometry but with different transformations, so rotation, scale, and also translation. So the end result will look something like this. We will have this bending arm geometry animation, and one of these arms, the second arm, is actually translated on the z-axis up, and also it rotates around its z-axis or the heading. And I already created a video in my Learn OpenGL in Python series about instancing. It is episode number 20, instancing, and in this video in this OpenGL in Python episode 20 instancing video, we used hardware instancing. So the instancing part happened on the GPU, but as far as I know, instancing in Panda is about creating multiple copies of the same geometry in the scene graph. So it's not, technically as far as I know, it's not hardware instancing. So I just prepared here an empty Panda3D window. So it looks like this. We have a 1280 by 720 window size, and I'm also setting here the frame rate meter, so it shows the frame rate meter here in the upper right corner of the window. And also just using the load PRC file data, I'm loading here these config variables. Creating here my game class, which inherits from the show base. Also creating the init method for the my game and calling the superclasses or the show base classes init method here. And I'm setting the background color for the window to 0.1, 0.1 and 0.1, so red, green, blue, and this is the alpha. Here instantiating game or the my game object called game, and calling the game.run, which will enter the main game loop. So because we are going to load an animated egg file, we are going to use the actor class, and we can import the actor class from the direct3d.actor import actor. And I'm also just going to paste here in the init method this line, so self.arm will be equal to the actor, and as a first parameter to the actor class I'm going to add the bone test underscore textured to.egg file. So this is in the my models folder, and this bone test underscore textured to.egg file. And here is also a bone test dash armature action.egg file, and I'm also loading it here as in a dictionary, and this egg file contains the actual animation. So this egg file is the geometry, and this egg file contains the animation. And I'm already showed you in an earlier episode how to load animated files or egg files in Panda3D using the actor class. So now let's make this arm visible. So I'm just going to call the self.arm.reparent to self.render. And now if I run this and I move the camera back, I have this arm loaded with the textures. To actually play the animation, we can call the self.arm.loop method. And to the loop method we need to give which animation we have to loop. So this is called anim1. and I'm just going to copy this. And now let's play, and as you can see now the animation is playing. So okay, let's do the instancing part. For the instancing part, I'm just going to load the model and the animation, but I'm not going to reparent this arm to the renderer. So I'm just going to comment out these two lines, and here I'm just going to create, let's say, an arm 1, and I'm just going to call the self.render that attach new node method, and I'm going to call this node arm1, and I'm also going to call on the arm1 the set position. So this self.render that attach new node, it creates a new node in the scene graph, and it also returns the node path, so the handler for this node, so which is saved in the arm. So I just can call the arm.set position, and I'm just going to set its position, let's say 0 on X, 0 on the Z, and I'm just going to move it back, so 5 units. And also just going to call the self.arm that instance2 method, instance2, and arm1. So here, this arm object, which is a type of an actor, I'm calling on this arm object the instance2 method, and it will create an instance in the same position as the arm1 notepad. Okay, now let me see. So I didn't add this arm to the scene graph. I just instantiated this arm to the scene graph. So how to explain it better, but we don't want to use it like this way, so this is instancing can be done inside loops. So I'm just going to copy a loop from my second monitor and here paste it, and just comment out these 3 lines. So I'm created here for loop for I in range 5, and here I called it placeholder because that's how it was called also in the documentation. So, but I'm just going to rename it to arm, refactor, rename, and just arm. So here I'm creating every iteration a new arm using the self.render.attach new node, and I'm adding a name arm plus the string of I plus 1, so it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So then I'm setting its position, so the newly created arm notepad, and I'm also instantiating an arm, so this, to this empty notepad, because at this time, so here it just creates an empty notepad. Here it sets this notepad's position, and here it's actually instantiating a geometry to this empty notepad. I don't know how to explain it better. So now if I run it, I should see 5 arms. And I'm also going to maybe move the camera's position a little bit back. So here, after the set background color, I'm going to add the set camera.set position, let's say 0 on X and -60 on the Z, which is also not the best. So I'm just, because X, Y, yes, Z goes up, down, so -60 was okay. Okay, so now I don't have to always move the camera. So to actually play back the animation, because now only just shows the geometry but doesn't play back the animation, I'm just going to uncomment this part so cell.arm, that loop, and the anim1, which points to this animation. And now if I run, now all 5 of these arms are playing the same animation. So they are the same geometry playing the same animation. We can create as many as we want, so I can just create, I don't know, maybe not 5 but 50 in this for loop. And now I have 50 arms, animated arms instantiated. And now let's also do a little bit of something different. So what I wanted to also show you that how to get the one child of these seeing graph. So I want to get the second child, which is this one, and I want to make its Z position, so the up-down position, a little bit higher, and also just rotate this one arm. So, and I'm just going to copy as a code from my second monitor, paste it here after the for loop. So here I'm getting the arm 2 using the cell.render.get child 2 at index 2. So this is how you can get a child object from the seeing graph. And child 2 actually points to the arm 2. And I'm going to show you something here. I'm just going to copy another for loop and paste it here. So I'm just going to loop through on the render.get children, which returns a list of the children. So every object which is attached to the renderer, so all the 50 arms and also the camera, and it will print out the index and also the object itself. So if I run it now, as you can see, here we have at the 0th index we have the render and the camera. At the first index we have the render and the arm 1. The second index is the render. So this is the object, I mean the node, the arm 1 and the arm 2, and this is its parent. And the render is the root, so root of the seeing graph. So everything is parented to the renderer. And now, as you can see, if I want to get the arm number 2, it is here. So it has a second index, or the index number 2, which is renderer, and its child, which is arm 2. So that's why I'm using here the cell.render.get child at index 2. And I'm also setting this arm 2, its position, to arm2.get position.x, arm2.get position.y, and I'm moving it up on the z-axis. So now if I run it, now this second arm is positioned on the vertical axis or the z-axis up. Okay, so I'm just going to comment out these 2 lines. This is how you can get all the children. And what another last thing I'm just going to do is just create a task, adding it to task manager, and I'm just going to rename it like, I don't know, rotate. So cell.rotate, rotate arm2. This will be the cell.rotate arm2 method. I'm also going to just name it rotate arm2, and I'm just going to quickly create here a method called rotate arm2, and this needs as a second argument a task, and it also needs to return the task.count, so it will be called in the next frame also, this method. And I'm just going to change this angle, which starts at 0, and I'm just going to copy from my second monitor so it is quicker. So here I'm just going to set the heading of the arm 2, which is the second child. So set its heading to the angle, and the heading is the rotation around the Z axis. Then I'm just going to increment the angle by 1, and here I'm just asking if cell.angle is bigger than 359, so we have 360 degrees rotation. I'm just going to reset the angle to 0. So now this way, if I run it, now this second arm is also rotating around its z-axis or its heading. And one more thing, I'm just going to change this for loop back to actually display 5 of these arms. So okay, this is how instancing works in Panda3D, and as I said, this is not, as far as I know, it is not GPU or hardware instancing, so, but it still, I think it's still very usable or useful when you want to create like, I don't know, like a forest or something like that, where you have the same geometry repeated multiple times, like rocks and forest and like bullets in a shooter game or this kind of stuff.